Live from the Export Beer Garden Studios, this is the agenda for Friday the 9th of February 2024.
The Agenda, an alternative commentary collective podcast.
Do you know what I love? You know what I love the most about your intro?
What's that?
You give the year.
Yeah,
because sometimes I wonder whether I'm still in 23. So it's good. I like it.
It's not for you right now.
Okay.
It's that these podcast episodes are going to be evergreen.
Oh.
And they're going to live forever. And when someone's looking back in 2030 and they're like, wait, when did this one happen?
Yeah, true.
Because it sounds like it happened last week.
Yeah.
I want them to know that we were talking about these things years ahead of their time.
You want this to be basically like The Simpsons of 50 years' time when they look back and they go, once again, the agenda has predicted the future.
They always say that, the Simpsons have predicted it again, and I kind of wonder if part of it is that we just haven't really changed all that much, you know?
Oh, and also, The Simpsons are throwing a hell of a lot of mud at the wall.
Yeah, they are.
We're talking hundreds of episodes a year, and one or two is gonna hit the mark with their kind of futuristic guesses.
I think the Goggles one wasn't too hard to predict.
No, because that's been around for a while.
Yeah, and I think didn't they call Arnold Schwarzenegger for governor or something before it happened?
The spooky one was Donald Trump as president.
Yeah.
And that was left field.
Yeah.
That was like, someone was having a massive laugh, and now they got a lot of egg all over their face.
Yeah. Liam Lawson is back in the country. You caught up with him recently, and this weekend he intends to race in a go-kart race. This is what he and every other driver grew up doing, is racing their go-karts, and apparently every time he comes back to New Zealand he just loves hopping back in the go-kart.
Yeah, I had briefly outside of the interview we chatted about that, and he was talking about, and I said, you must go and just smash people. Like, they must turn up to the go-kart meet and go, oh, fuck, Liam Lawson's here.
Yeah.
But he reckons it takes quite a little while to get used to the kart again, and I was like, you've come from a Formula 1 testing vehicle into a go-kart. It's like, and he goes, look, there's different techniques, and it's quite hard. And you've got people who've been racing go-karts all year. And they come up, and also the fact that they want to smash me.
Yeah.
They want to say they've beaten a Formula 1 driver on a go-kart track.
Yeah, I was reading a little article that of an interview with him talking about that, and he said it was just keep going on about how physical it is, because I guess you're not really strapped into anything. You can also trade paint a little bit with the other karts.
And also, you haven't got the halo. Like, you know, they got the halo on the Formula 1 which protects your head and everything.
Yeah.
I think if you're going over in a kart, I've got a roll cage at the back, but not much.
No, you're in deep shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be good. I mean, it'll be awesome if you're like a 16-year-old kid who'd been racing go-karts all week, all year, like you said, and then all of a sudden Liam Lawson's sitting in the kart next to you.
And it's good he's doing it too, because it shows that there's a future there. Like, if you're a Kiwi and you're battling away in a kart, there is a path to Formula 1, and Liam Lawson's taken it, and we raced karts as well. So it's a good motivator for your motorheads out there.
Yeah, and a great scalp to take as well.
Totally.
To be like, it's like Lee Hart going on about who did he bowl out? Martin Guptill.
Oh, and the hairy javelin
and Grant Elliott
in two separate games, and it's like, and I've never lived it down.
No, and it's ultimate chaos theory in terms of cricket. You don't know what the hell he's going to bowl.
And there is no coincidence that after he got Guptill out, a little bit of slump in form and then retired. See what I mean? So it's like a massive hit to the ego when Lee Hart gets you out.
Well, hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to Liam Lawson. But that full interview that you did with him earlier on last week, is up now on this very feed, so if you haven't listened to that already. But a lot of people have.
It's got an awkward start, because I just started off talking about his testicles, because he talks about how his testicle popped out in a Japanese race for 45 minutes.
Yes.
And so I don't actually intro the interview. I just go, hey, I have the same problem with my nuts as well. So there's no context to the start of that. So
a lot of nut chat.
Yeah, a lot of nut chat.
A lot of nut chat. And if you have read the headline of this podcast and you're here for the big Super Bowl preview, that will be at the end of the show. But if you check into the show notes, you can see there'll be a little time stamp of exactly when that is. So if all you care about is Super Bowl, skip through and listen to that. But you're going to miss out on quite a lot if you do that.
And also, if you don't care, you can just go to the end and then stop.
And then stop once we get there. Yeah.
I admit I'm one of those. I'm into Super Bowl.
Yes.
NFL not so much. I'm still yet to get my head around it.
Yeah, so am I. So we're going to get the ACC's US correspondent.
We've got a US correspondent.
Yeah, we've got a US correspondent. Yeah, I just took a little bit of free license there and signed him to, and it's the US dollar, so it's like you're going to freak out when you see the retainer that I've put him on.
A retainer? You put him on a retainer?
Well, it's just that.
Can you just put him on a per appearance?
Nah, it was a hearty negotiation, and obviously it's the American dollar. I got a little confused. So,
right. So we've got him for what else?
Just NFL at this point.
Okay. You can't stretch to NBA?
He doesn't follow the NBA. He's big into college lacrosse, so maybe we can get him back on for that.
Hey, we'll take this offline, eh?
We'll circle back. Taking it online is Sky TV, who are finally doing something that everyone has been calling for a long time. They are bringing the Warriors and Super Rugby free to air. So how it's going to work is they have that, you would have seen on your TV that they've got that Sky Sport, I forget what it's called.
Open.
Sky Open.
Used to be Prime.
And now on Friday nights they're going to play the Friday night NRL game, and then on Saturday they're going to play at least one of the rugby matches from Saturday and Sunday, Friday and Saturday, February 24th, which is only a couple of weeks away. There's going to be 25 NRL games shown in total, 7 of those being Warriors matches, plus 3 further additional matches for Anzac Day, Magic Round, and State of Origin 1, which is pretty exciting. It's going to be on there as well. Rugby fans are going to see 19 Super Rugby Pacific matches free on Sky Open, kicking off with the Highlanders versus Moana Pacifica, Saturday, February 24th, so that's in a couple of weeks as well. So every Friday night there's going to be an NRL match. Every Saturday there will be a free Super Rugby Pacific match. This is brilliant. Finally, they've done not exactly what we were calling for, but a good version of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and of course, our coverage still remains on Sky Sport 9.
Yes.
So if you have got Sky, or Sky Sport Now, then flick along to Sky Sport 9 because we've got all those games as well. I wonder if surely they've looked at the New Zealand cricket side of it, and they've probably been privy to some numbers, which of the viewership of cricket and the general attendance of cricket matches, apart from that last test, but that can be forgiven because South Africa suck.
Yep.
And that must have been a catalyst for this, and I think it's great. It's a taster, and that's all they need.
Yeah, and there's another part of it. Don't they now have a governing body for Super Rugby that has Super Rugby's interests at heart, so that they can be like, we want Super Rugby on TV, free to air, right? Whereas before it was just everyone just sort of out there fending for themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a bit of a push towards Super Rugby as a product, as opposed to each individual franchise just struggling around.
And next step is, I know that I've had this discussion with the various people. Next step is afternoon rugby would be good.
Yeah, on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that would be good. And I know that there is issues around audience and revenue, because obviously the attendance grows, but the TV audience goes down.
Because people are out doing shit.
And the TV audience goes down, the revenue opportunity goes down. So there's kind of a balance there. But still, I think every now and then a good Sunday afternoon game, Saturday afternoon game is great, because I would take my kids if I'm not commentating. Because I wouldn't take them to the 7 o'clock game. And not many parents, few parents struggle through it, but then you're dealing with ropey kids at 10 o'clock at night who've got 9 ice creams and 4 bottles of chips down there.
Now you got to try and drive home, then you got to start the whole bedtime routine.
Yeah,
it's a shit show.
Yeah, it is for families anyway. So every now and then throw us a bone. This is a bloody good start.
Yes.
And I'm all for it. And
it works for them, because there's all this Wars fever, but for people that weren't on the bandwagon last year, they're probably not signing up to Sky just to watch shit, just because everyone's getting on board. But now if they watch a couple of Friday night games, they see the Warriors a couple of times, they might be like, hang on, I want to see some of the other games, you know? I want to see some of the games that aren't free to air, now I'm going to get Sky. Also, if they show other teams, like some of the, Panthers are going to play against, whoever, the Storm, and it's like, oh shit, these Panthers are cool, I'll watch them.
This is an elaborate free trial.
Yes.
It's an elaborate freemium trial, and it's a great idea. And do you know who needs to potentially take a little bit of credit for this? And that is Spark Sport.
Yes.
Because the demise of Spark Sport basically instigated the free-to-air with TVNZ for cricket.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think, and unfortunately Spark Sport are gone, but they've done us a massive service here by getting some free-to-air. Ironically, a paid per sport digital platform has instigated a bunch of free-to-air. Yeah,
it's brilliant. And it's brilliant for us as well, because there's going to be some people who pick up watching Super Rugby again, the casual viewer, and they're like, geez, these commentators are boring. Can we get a bit more pizzazz in here,
And then they just have to go up 8 spots to Sky Sport 9. It's like we're in the naughty seat at Sky Sport 9. It's like the furthest from Sky Sport 1 you can get.
Yeah.
Both in content and in channel number.
Yeah, there's a few people that I've talked to have been like, I only run the app, I don't have the box, so I can't get you guys. I'm like, yes, you can.
Everyone can.
It's its own channel. You just got to go up to Sky Sport 9. This can only be good. I have so many memories as a kid of watching. They used to have like so many Warriors games on free-to-air TV, and like Sunday afternoon, middle of winter, you're just milling about inside because it's too cold to go out, and the Warriors are on. You're just like, this is awesome. Now I love the Warriors, and I think that's going to be. It's just going to grow the game. It's going to grow the up the wars.
Oh yeah.
Bandwagon, and can only be a good thing, particularly for us because our audience is hopefully going to grow as well. All right, time for a quick ad, and then we'll be back with more of the agenda. Lane, this happens to us more often than it should, and it's us coming up with an idea, as we were just talking about before, free-to-air TV, and then mainstream sports or sports media adopting it not too long after. Football is introducing a blue card. We've talked about various different cards in football and in every other sport as well. The blue card's going to be introduced into football as part of sin bin trials to be announced tomorrow in sunny Wales. The new protocol will limit the new card to fouls that prevent a promising attack. Yes. So if someone gets taken out off ball, that's going to remain a yellow. But if someone is taken out in a position to either make a breakaway, score a goal, whatever, that's going to be a blue card. Plus dissent. So if you talk to the ref, this is something that football have needed to clean up for a long time. If you touch the ref, anything like that, that's a blue card. You're off for 10 minutes, and then you can come back on. Yeah. 2 blue cards equal a red. Yep. A blue and a yellow card equals a red. It just makes sense. This is something that I don't know. The yellow card, to anyone that watched rugby and then go to watch football, the yellow card meant almost nothing.
It's a wet bus ticket. Yeah. It's a wet bus ticket, which the players don't even. The only time football players ever give a shit about yellow cards is the World Cup. Yeah. Because remember, if they get 2, they can't play the next game. Yeah. And a few of them carry yellow cards through, and then they're terrified of getting one in the semi-final, which means they can't play the final. Yeah. That's the only time I've ever seen players respect the yellow card. Outside of that, I couldn't give a flying. No. So this is great. And there's no advantage to your opposition. You got some dirty bastard who's taken out your striker. He's about to score a goal. Yeah. And the penalty, it's 40 yards out from the goal, you're going to have a screamer to score it, a free kick. Yeah. It's good. It's what should be done.
Exactly. And like I said before, the haranguing the ref is something that's just, it's a tough look for the sport.
And the diving. The diving and the haranguing of the ref is just like real childish. You look at it and go, I don't want to punch that guy in the head.
Yeah, the diving part of it is tough because it works, and you just know that they'll never talk about it, but you know they're practicing it, you know they're training for it.
It's the face grab on the shin, like they've been hitting the shin and they dive to the ground holding their face, and that does my head in.
Well, Gus Gould had the best solution for that last year when everyone was staying down to call for like a crusher tackle in the NRL. They'd hold the back of their neck and be like, then they'd check the replay and be like, oh yeah, there kind of was. And he was like, okay, if we're so worried about protecting the head, if you go down and hold the back of your neck, that should be automatic. You go off for an HIA. Yeah. So if you go down and you show any signs of potential injury, you should have to go off for like a 10-minute medical check. I reckon that would be the only way that they would solve the diving issue in football.
And diving or faking in rugby league is not it's something you don't see that often.
Nah. Well, yeah, like I said, there's just the neck part of it that people are starting to see. But this is something that we had called for a while, various different cards in sports. I had proposed in a Half-Baked Sports idea a while ago the Donald Duck card, and it was for non-violent yellow or red cards. So it's like maybe it was an inadvertent head high, or someone just got tipped over the horizontal or whatever.
Or intentional knockdown.
Things like that. Anything short of basically throwing a punch or intentionally maiming someone. Donald Duck card, you get to play on, but you play on without pants. And so it's a
humiliator.
It's a humiliator. Yeah. It's ridiculing someone out of the game. Yeah. And this is something we've been calling for a while.
Well, and I mean, also we called about making the chair they sit on for the sin binning a little bit more humiliating as well. So
it's a white plastic chair.
Maybe a little stool, but you have to take your pants off, or you have to wear a costume or a stupid hat or something.
A dunce hat.
Yeah, and you have to sit there and on a humiliating chair, maybe like a little doll's chair. Yep. And wear a wig and a tutu. Just so you go back there and go, oh, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at him there.
Or it could be up to whoever's home field it is to decide where you have to sit. For example, down there in Dunedin, you might have to sit in the middle of the zoo for the duration of your penalty. Because I couldn't think of anywhere worse to sit.
What you could do is install a toilet sideline, and they've got to remove their pants and sit on the toilet, because natural instinct will kick in, and it'll be very hard not to do a dump or do wheeze.
Yeah, it's just gonna happen to you involuntarily.
Anyway, it's always something completely dehumanizing about seeing someone on the toilet as well.
Maybe your binning lasts for as long as it takes you to complete a number 2.
Or a number 3. Maybe not on live TV.
Yeah, not in the afternoon.
Because that's always a leveler for me. If I meet someone who, and it's invariably someone dangerously hot and famous, and if they're really rude to you, I just automatically imagine them taking a dump.
Right, and then level the playing field.
And it makes them so much less, I don't know, unattainable when they're like, you do a shit like the rest of us. And I can imagine you doing a massive cable with your pants around your ankles, and for me, it's great. It's a great leveler.
Yeah, it's also it's one of the most humbling experiences when someone walks in on you.
I know, and you're usually on your phone as well.
Yeah, you're not up to anything good in there. The blue card's going to be introduced in football, and maybe we could potentially see something.
A brown card.
A brown card introduced into rugby. To cricket now, Daryl Mitchell is going to miss the second test against South Africa and the T20 series against Australia.
And the T20s.
Yeah, in an attempt to allow an ongoing foot injury to heal. The South African one's like, who gives a shit?
I don't care.
We're going to give them a hiding anyway. But the Australian T20 series is pretty brutal.
Yeah, he is one of our best short form players, if not the best.
Yeah.
But I can see what they're doing. The T20 series, it's important. It's a warm-up for obviously there's as many T20s games as we can get in before the World Cup.
Yeah.
But I guess the Test series is more of a priority for New Zealand, so they want to get him fit for those 2 tests against Aussie.
So the T20s first, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So the 3 T20s are first and then the 2 tests. So I can see what they're doing. Look, if it means he's going to be fit for the tests, then go for it. But it is going to be a massive shame to see him out of those T20s.
Yeah. I mean, I would... Who would that bring in for this next test? I mean, to be honest, it doesn't matter. It could be just about anyone, and it's not really going to...
Yeah, I mean, they bring in Will Young, I guess. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really bowl in the tests anymore, so it's not a bowling option. It's a pure batting option. So I'd say Will Young.
Why do I have a memory of Daryl Mitchell being a bowling all-rounder when he first started?
Yeah, he used to be, but I guess this foot injuries kind of put that to pay. Because he used to bowl... He used to bowl at 130.
Yeah.
And he used to come steaming in.
Yeah.
But I think he's just concentrating on his batting, I guess, now.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I'd say, Will Young's probably the one that's going to come in there. Yeah.
I mean, that one's going to be a hiding anyway, but like you say, it's the T20s that are a little bit iffy, so we will keep a weather eye cocked on that wee foot and see how it goes. Yeah.
Kane Williamson will be out of the T20s.
Is that right?
Potentially, because he's expecting his 3rd child.
Oh, how selfish.
I know. And as he said to us, it was like when we had him for that ANZ backyard rules, which is out this week, I believe, next week. And we did some filming with Kane, and he said that we were talking about family and kids, whatever. And we said, "How many kids you got?" He goes, "I got 2. I've got one on the way." All of my kids have coincided with either COVID or an injury break. So it just shows to spend a little time at home.
Yeah,
on comes a baby.
Okay.
I was like, so I think he's got 3 under. I think it's 3 under 5 or 3 under 4, maybe.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's going to be intense for him. But it's due the same time as the Australian T20s. So
has he just ruled himself out altogether?
I think it's up in the air. There's a potential doubt around it.
Yeah, right.
Unless it gets blasted out.
Yeah, Mark Chapman needs to stay on call.
Yeah.
To see how that one goes. All right, while we're on cricket as well, I saw a good story that came out today, and I thought this is another opportunity for us to bring out our brand new segment, Spit or Swallow. Harsha Bogle,
yes,
highly respected broadcaster known as the voice of Indian cricket, was recently involved in a heated debate around the legality of the switch hit with Kevin Peterson. Harsha believes that when a batsman turns their hands around to play a switch hit, for example, a right-hander shaping up like a left-hander, this is as opposed to a reverse sweep where you keep the hands in the same spot. It gives them too much of an advantage because bowlers have to tell the umpire if they're going to make the same change. If you can't swap from right to left in the middle of your run-up.
But you can't swap from going around the wicket to over the wicket as well without, you know what I mean, without telling the umpire.
Yeah, and his thing was, if I'm a bowler, I'm bowling with my right hand, you're batting with your right hand, I'm going to set a field, and the challenge is, can you beat my ball?
Yeah.
And we've agreed on what we're about to do. I can't then try and trick you by changing what it is that I'm doing. You shouldn't then be allowed to do the same from batting. So, Mike Lane, spit or swallow, banning the switch hit.
I'm spitting that out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. The switch hit has become part of the game now.
Yeah.
And bowlers have to be able to bowl to it.
If you can reverse sweep, you should be allowed to switch hit. There's not really much difference.
I can see there is some rules. I can see where Harsha Bogle's coming from in terms of. I'm always confused that the switch hit is then the LBW. How is that judged? Like in terms of hitting. Like, is that how does that? Are
you now deemed a left-handed batsman?
Yes, and
so is it now pitching outside your
outside leg, or is it outside off, or is it we treating you as a right-hand batsman and the pitch is outside off and going on to hit the stumps? That bit confuses me a little bit.
That is very confusing,
and I don't know that part of it. That part of it's the only one that's dubious for me. But if a batsman wants to switch hit, they switch hit. Like the risks are so high on switch hitting.
Oh yeah,
and even reverse sweeping that I don't think bowlers mind that much because I think it's 50-50 on terms of seeing reverse sweep switch hitting coming off and people getting out.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like there's so many times he's got out doing switch hit. What a dick.
Yeah.
But then you see occasionally someone switch hit it and smoke it into the stands, and you're like, it looks cool as well.
It looks sick.
Yeah.
And as a bowler, it must be so deflating. But my point to that is, not only should we not ban the switch hit, we should allow bowlers to switch hands in the run-up.
Totally. Going around the wicket and over the wicket, I can see you probably have to change that because it's an angle you're bowling. But you're right. If they want to come in and bowl left-handed, sweet. But they just have to stay on the same side of the wicket they've indicated.
I don't even mind changing the side of the... Because why is that such a big... Like, why is that harder than switching hands? Because you have to change your stance? Or
No, it's a completely different angle.
Yeah.
You're bowling from or over and around. Also, when you're around the wicket, it's often more difficult to get an LBW decision. Often you'd set a field differently to that as well.
Yeah. But that's on you because you're the bowler deciding to do that. So
absolutely.
You're only going to disadvantage yourself.
I think also the umpire, it's quite difficult for no balls or, in general.
Oh, yeah, because they can't see the guy behind them.
Yeah, so all of a sudden someone's, whether they're coming left or right over their shoulder. So a little bit of that.
Yeah, but I've never understood why it's not kosher to just walk in and, if you are capable of bowling with different hands, which some dudes are, why not?
Oh, if you can do it, hell yeah.
I reckon Murali would have been even more deadly. He looked like the kind of guy who could have bowled with his left arm.
He definitely would chuck it even more with his left arm. Hey, but I'm getting it. Bumrah.
I reckon he could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's someone out there, some freak show that could do it. But I'm chewing that up and I'm spitting it back in Harsha Bogle's face.
Just finally, before we get into our big Super Bowl preview with our American correspondent, and then we'll talk about his salary later on. The NBA trade deadline is today. It's yesterday in American time, which is happening right now. So this is the final day that you're allowed to trade any player in the NBA. So teams that are looking to make a run at the title in the second half of the season, they're trying to trade for better players. Teams that have had a stinker for the first half, they want to sometimes trade good players away to make themselves even shitter.
So they can get a good draft.
So they can get a good draft pick. It's today. No huge name players have been traded at the time of recording. I think there's another hour or two left, so something could happen.
So just to be clear, so you could trade now and say I trade, but this is not going to happen. LA trade LeBron to the Phoenix Suns.
Yep.
Phoenix Suns can play for the Phoenix Suns next week?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah, and that happens quite often. There's stories of players who were playing against, say against the Lakers for one team. They got traded to another team who happened to be playing against the Lakers the next day.
Right.
Didn't leave the hotel. Just suited up and played for the next team the next day.
Okay, so, that's cool. I like that. It's better than the NRL schmozzle.
And it just happens straight away. And before you know it, all of a sudden you've had 10 games with this guy because there's 80 games in a season. So you're like, oh shit, all of a sudden they've had this. And then there's a whole storyline about the impact of a player that, since they've had the trade. This is why Steven Adams was traded about a week ago, because anytime you give people a deadline, they tend to use all available time up until that deadline. The big winners so far are probably the New York Knicks, who have picked up a few fringe starters because they've gone great guns this year so far, and all of a sudden they find themselves in a position to actually have a proper crack.
So have a shot at the title.
To have a shot at the title. So they've picked up a few fringe starters from the Pistons, who fucking suck, to a historic level. So they're trading players away. They just released the guy, completely just gave out his contract.
Yep.
And so they're going hell for leather for the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And it just, the real winners for all of this, there's no big trades. Obviously everyone wants the LeBron trade or something like that. But the real winners are us as fans who get to talk about the impact of the trade on our favourite team.
Yeah.
We're like, fuck yeah, we got this guy, we got that guy.
Yeah.
Every time this comes up, I just think this would be so good for Super Rugby.
Imagine mid-season you get Bodie Barrett, Geordie Barrett in your team.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it just be incredible? And because they're all on centralised contract, if Bodie Barrett said, I want to go from the Hurricanes to the Blues, New Zealand Rugby could be like, we'll trade you halfway through.
Yeah.
Don't go now.
I
Wait.
think it's too confronting for New Zealand fans, particularly rugby fans.
Yeah,
they would just hit the roof, man. You imagine, like, trading, I don't know.
Well, last year I wrote a trade column for Super Rugby. I'll do it again this year, but I was just like, the Highlanders, they sucked, and they also had a double up in halfbacks. So I was just like, trade Fakatava for Peter Gus.
Yeah.
Imagine Peter Gus in front of the zoo.
It'd be awesome.
It would have been awesome.
I know, and I'm slowly getting my head around the draft thing, and I love the showbiz in America, and it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Imagine some 70-year-old rugby head trying to get his head around the fact that his favourite team has just lost a halfback first five combination to the Highlanders mid-season.
I know.
Imagine the talkback calls.
Well, it'll be good for talkback.
Yeah.
And you're right, because the problem is the other guys that still own the sky boxes and are paying the bills for all of us.
It's gone to pot. That's bloody Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Why are they bloody trading it? And why has he got dye in his hair? What's that all about?
Yeah, well, I'm not buying a fucking EV either.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think we're too far away from that kind of stuff happening. And then people are like, oh, but the draft is bullshit, because what if I want to play for, Otago, but I get drafted to Melbourne or something
Deal
like
with
that?
it.
It's like, yeah, fuck it, you get to pay.
Go be a star in Melbourne and get traded to the Crusaders.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like players have to leave anyway, Yeah. Like Brad Weber was playing for Otago and then had to get his opportunity at the Chiefs. He had to move.
There's not many. You have to be amazing. You have to be at the top of your game to choose.
Yeah, that's
where
right.
you play.
You've got to be Bowden Barrett, basically, to decide what team you want to play for. So, I don't know. It feels like everything's trending in that direction. And
I think
selfishly, as someone who works in sports media, I really want that to happen.
Yeah, I hate to say it, I don't think it's going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years. Maybe not even 10 years. We might be the 50-year-old dudes shouting at the clouds.
Well, when it finally happens and we're 70 and we're like, oh, what the bloody hell? What's this all about? All right, time for one more break. And then when we come back, the Super Bowl is on Monday, our time. We're going to get a big Super Bowl preview with Chris Collins, the ACC's American correspondent.
He better be good, given you'll put him on a retainer to do one interview.
Oh, he'll be good.
Okay.
Well, no, we can do more interviews. It's just he doesn't really know any other sports. So.
Oh, well, okay, great.
We'll see how we go. All right, we'll be back with Chris in just a minute. Well, Patrick Mahomes and the underdog Kansas City Chiefs are aiming to become the first repeat champions in 19 years and trying to solidify their claim to a dynasty with a third Super Bowl title in 5 years. But in their way is Brock Purdy, returning from significant injury after rising from Mr. Irrelevant to now leading San Francisco to the brink of a record-tying 6th Super Bowl title. But I'm not just going to sit here and read Wikipedia at you for the next 10 minutes. I've brought in US correspondent Chris Collins. G'day, Chris. How you getting on, mate?
Good morning, Manaia. I'm doing well, man. I'm absolutely honored to be a part of the podcast this morning. Happy to be here.
Great to have you on here, mate. I think we need to be honest from the get-go. Where do your allegiances lie? Who's your NFL team?
Yeah, that's a sad subject. I guess we can't start there. Put this out there, because I am a diehard Chicago Bears fan. Last time the Chicago Bears were in the Super Bowl was 1986, so it's been a bit since I've actually had a strong rooting interest in the Super Bowl. But hey, we're going to be back. Next year's the year for the Bears.
If the Bears haven't, that sounds very much like a Warriors fan here in New Zealand. If the Bears haven't been in the Super Bowl for a long time, do you have like a secondary team that you follow when the playoffs start?
So I would it was the Baltimore Ravens for a long time. And then, and then it's ironic because then I married my wife, who was a New England Patriots fan, who was probably my least favorite football team growing up. So then I sort of had to fake that team allegiance for, the last 6 years, but now they're not good anymore either. So if I had to pick a team besides the Bears, because obviously the Bears haven't been good for my entire lifetime, literally, it'd be the Ravens. But, everybody's kind of jumping on this Mahomes bandwagon, and I'm looking at the bandwagon. I'm not on it, but it's right in front of me looking at me.
You're standing on the platform. You haven't quite bought your tickets. What is it about the Mahomes bandwagon that's brought so many people into it?
Well, can you see? I mean, they're partying hard. They're on there. Bandwagon is it's beers, shots, just great tunes. You got some chicks on there for sure. It seems like it's a good time, and it's almost going to follow that Brady bandwagon path, where Tom Brady, obviously 6-time Super Bowl champion for the last. I mean, he just retired last year, but I mean, nobody thought that anybody could imitate what Tom Brady could do. And if Mahomes here wins his third, like you said in the Open, back to back, and then the third in the last 5 years, then he's only, I think, 28. So I mean, he's kind of on that trajectory of Brady. So might as well. I mean, we're not getting on the ground level here, Manaia, obviously. Yeah. There's been obviously Chiefs fans since the beginning, but it would be better getting on now than if he's going for his fifth, in like 3-4 years from now, then it's going to be overcrowded. So you kind of want to get in a little, not the ground level, obviously, but you kind of would be into the party and enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah, the best time to jump on was about 3 years ago. The second best time is to jump on right about now. Do you think, so obviously Brady has like an absurd amount of rings, and if anyone was going to try and track him down, they would have to start very early in their career. Do you think that if Mahomes' game, do you think that would translate to being able to play at 40? Because he's all about running and getting out there and, dragging the defense side to side. Whereas Brady basically played in a tuxedo, didn't he? He could have just stood in the pocket and played in a dinner suit. Do you reckon Mahomes' game would translate like that?
Yeah, he was kind of a statue at the end of his career, Brady, and he really was. He was so stoic out there. Just beautiful Tom. We all love Tom Brady. But no, that's a good point. And actually, you know what? And I bet you the Kansas City ownership and the general manager and coaching staff actually saw that too. Is because you look at it and, Patrick Mahomes really doesn't do any quarterback sneaks anymore. Like, they really don't put him in harm's way at the line of scrimmage. But, he's such a freelancer that once the kind of the play breaks apart and he's running around wild back there, he kind of puts himself in harm's way. And with the NFL these days, all it takes is one hit. So that's what obviously the huge concern is. He's 28, so he's got to be, to remain alive in the NFL for the next 12 years is going to be a tough task to tell, or not a tough task to be. But I mean, it doesn't benefit him. He's not as bad as like a Lamar Jackson or a C.J. Stroud in terms of their running ability, or Justin Fields for the Bears for that matter. I mean, Justin Fields, he just missed 6 games this past year because of injury. But all it takes is one hit, so that would be definitely a point of concern. But I think as he gets older, he's going to kind of get back into that Brady model and be, put on that tuxedo and stay himself back there. So I think the coaching staff is going to monitor that as they move forward.
Yeah, 100%. Has the Chiefs bandwagon been impacted at all by Taylor Swift jumping on board that? We actually have a rule on our podcast where we weren't going to talk about Taylor Swift. I'm going to make an exception in the Super Bowl preview. We are going to talk about her. She's going to be a big storyline. Has that put many people off the Chiefs bandwagon?
Well, I mean, talk about number one polarizing topic in the Super Bowl. It's Taylor Swift. I'm all for it. I love it, and I think it's definitely scared some people away and off the bandwagon. But I think for everyone that's jumped off, I think there's been 2 or 3 that have jumped on, to be honest with you. Because I think I was looking at it, the over-under on viewership for the Super Bowl is at 122 million people. And the record for Super Bowl, for the most viewed Super Bowl, is 115. So they're already putting the over-under at 7 million more than the world record for viewership of the Super Bowl. And I think it's so weird to say. I think a lot of that, not a lot, I should say, but it's accounting those new Taylor Swift fans. You're going to get those 13, 14-year-old girls watching it with their dad for the first time ever, which is kind of cool. And I think it's a good storyline. I mean, the world, Manaia, I'm telling you right now, the world would fall apart, at least social media would fall apart, if Travis Kelce catches a winning touchdown pass, Taylor Swift runs out on the fields. I mean, it's a fairy tale. Yeah. It's a fairy tale. Gives a proposal. Who knows what will happen? I mean, the world, it's going to be one of the best days in the U.S. history, if that does occur. So.
Well, and then the song and the album that she's going to write subsequently after she breaks off the engagement after just a week is gonna set all kinds of records as well.
It's a master plan.
Yeah. I love your take that Taylor Swift is bringing families together because the Swiftie kids are going to be watching along the Super Bowl with their dads. It's an angle I hadn't really considered. It's a beautiful, touching tale. I think as many people are outraged about Taylor Swift detracting from the Super Bowl, you're right. There's as many people who are getting into it just because she's part of it. But on the other side of the ledger, we've got the 49ers. We've got Brock Purdy. As I said in the intro, he sort of came from, wasn't he the last pick of his draft class, and now he's taking his team to the Super Bowl?
Which is amazing. I know, it's absolutely amazing. He was the last pick of the draft.
And what are the storylines? For anyone who hasn't followed the 49ers, how has their run been going into the Super Bowl?
So the thing with the 49ers is that they have, and I think everybody would agree with you, which sounds weird on the surface, is they have the best team. They're extremely deep. Their defense hasn't been necessarily good the past couple of weeks, but their defense has been reasonably good, and their offense is absolutely stacked with firepower. I mean, they have the best wide receivers in the league. They have the best offensive line in the league. So basically, big boy Brock back there, all he needs to do is just kind of facilitate, give the ball to, you got Brandon Ayuk, you got Deebo Samuel, and then you got you got Christian McCaffrey there in the backfield. So he's really good at just kind of facilitating and playing his part. So that's what you're going to get with the last pick of the draft. But I wouldn't expect Brock to be making many, otherworldly plays, highlight reel plays like our boy Mahomes. But he's just very efficient. So you look at Purdy, he's going to drop back, he's going to go through his progressions, and then make the right decision. He rarely makes mistakes, and he was actually an MVP favorite up until about 3-4 games left in the regular season. Then he had some duds. But if you're looking for efficiency and consistency, that's kind of what Brock's good for. And he's really, really bad in the rain, and the game's in a dome, so you don't have to worry about that. So. Brock, I don't know. We'll see how he does. But he's young and he's the last pick of the draft, and you throw him in a Super Bowl from 122 million people watching. God knows how he's going to act.
Yeah.
Or react.
Christian McCaffrey, you mentioned there, he has been one of the standouts of this season, and I think that there's a lot of people in our office who have made money off betting on McCaffrey 2 touchdowns or McCaffrey first touchdown. One of the bets that we've got on going into the Super Bowl is the first touchdown to be either Travis Kelce or Christian McCaffrey. That's paying $3. Do you reckon that's good eating?
Well, it's a both of them, so you can get either McCaffrey or Kelce, like in the same bet.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
I like that. I like that. Because it's gonna be somebody they trust. I mean, especially with these, everybody is so. You watch first quarter Super Bowls and everybody's so tight, and it's obviously understood. So they were going to want to just feed it to somebody who's experienced and actually has been there before. So if that's 2-1, as you say, if you get them both, I think that's not bad, my man.
Yeah.
I would probably pick McCaffrey if I had to pick one between the two, because Kelce just seems too much of a fairy tale. But no, I like that too. I jump on that.
But actually, a huge vibe bet would be to get on Kelce last touchdown of the Super Bowl and Kansas City to win.
I'm all in for vibe bets. I live by vibe bets. Don't show me any of your analytics or your research. Just I strictly go off of vibes, which I obviously assume you do as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's unfortunate that on the TAB at the moment you can't find. I've had a word to them about this. You can't find a market on what colour Gatorade is going to be dumped on the winning coach after the game. They just won't take your money on it. But I know that you can gamble on that over in the States and various places. What other parts? Yeah, which is like quite an interesting part of the Super Bowl. What other parts of like the Super Bowl Sunday, the weekend, as a viewer, do you think that like Kiwis don't understand?
Yeah, it's well, I was thinking about that too. It's not tough to explain. It reminds me of the World Cup rugby final. Yeah. It really does, and it's basically just like a countrywide like stag do. Like there's no rules really. You can do whatever the hell you want. Like you can just pop up a beer at 10 a.m. Not anybody's going to care. At least that's what. I love the Super Bowl. I take the Super Bowl right up there with Christmas and the 4th of July, because you get everything. You get the commercials, which are a big hit with everybody, and then you have the halftime show. And also what's good is because it's usually just at like a buddy's house. Like I would just go to a buddy's house. You have like 10, 15 people over there, or maybe probably like 10 people there.
Yeah.
but it's just a party. Like and then nobody cares about work the next day. I mean, it's an absolute travesty that's not a national U.S. holiday the Monday after the Super Bowl. But it's just, it brings everybody together. You just eat until your heart's delight. You just drink until, you start drinking at 10, and it's such a party. It's one of the best days of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Chris, before we let you go, mate, who is your pick for the Super Bowl? How do you think this one's going to play out?
Yeah, I was thinking about this as well, and I think I'm going to go with old Patty Mahomes. I think, especially because they're the underdogs, which is weird. But if you grab Patty Mahomes and you grab that 2.5, I think it's either 2.5 or 2 points, wherever you see the line at. But I think because he's inevitable. I mean, I think he's like I said, he's kind of the Brady of the generation. So if you took me back to 2005 and said I had the 15 years to bet on Brady, I think I'd jump on that. So I'm taking Mahomes. I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the post-game engagement with our girl T Swift.
Yeah.
I'm taking this is the next chapter of American history after that happens. Like the Royal Couple. I mean, I'm taking it all. I'm taking the Chiefs and everything else.
And the Red Gatorade. Brilliant. Thanks very much for your time. The ACC's US correspondent on a sickening retainer that's going to put the ACC under for the financial year of 2024. Enjoy the Super Bowl, Chris, and we'll talk to you later on.
Thanks, Manaia. You too. Bye.
All right, well, that will do us for the podcast for a Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Huge thanks to Chris, ACC US correspondent, for joining us to preview the Super Bowl. And a huge thanks to G Lane for joining us for the start of the podcast before storming out in a huff after showing him exactly how much the ACC was on the hook for that one interview. We will see you on Monday for another episode of the Agenda Podcast.
You've been listening to the ACC's Agenda Podcast. For more episodes, subscribe on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.